Hi, thank you for being here. I am a first-year graduate student, so I'm just going to talk to you about the ideas I'm developing for my dissertation and hopefully get some feedback on them. So I'm sure that a lot of us in this room know about the expansion of oil palm, especially in tropical regions. Well, part of the reason why it's in so much demand is because it can be used for many different things. It can be used as a biofuel, so as an alternative that is renewable to petroleum products, but it also can be used in many different products that we eat every day as a food additive, and even in personal care products and beauty products. So a lot of the things that we use every day use a lot of palm oil, and even some things that may or may not be very dear to our hearts. Like, coincidentally, one of those was found in the breakfast this morning. So palm oil is everywhere. So with this high demand comes a lot of different consequences. The first that we think about is the effect on the degradation of habitat and the decrease of biodiversity. Like I kind of mentioned, palm oil grows in the tropics, which happen to coincide with areas that are very diverse, with high biodiversity. So that has a big impact. Also, as with any other type of agricultural practice, there is degradation of soil resources and water resources. And from an ecosystem perspective, some services and functions are affected by this type of development. For example, the service of freshwater provisioning and the process of biogeochemical cycles can be affected by these changes. Most of the time, most of the studies that have occurred through palm oil are in areas where pretty much there's a clear cut from a beautiful primary forest into palm. And there's been a lot of focus on that loss of biodiversity, and also a lot of focus on the effects on the communities there, such as the Penan people that Pete very famously works with. So their livelihoods are affected. They might get displaced from their homeland. So there's a lot of focus on this type of problems. But another area that I feel has a lot of room to grow is areas such as Mesoamerica. So from the middle of Mexico down to Central America, where they've had civilizations for a very long time. So all this land has gone through a lot of different changes through time, even through pre-Columbian eras. So land that has been greatly modified for thousands of years. This is a picture of in Chiapas, Mexico, where nearby there are still some Lacandon Indians that are descended from the Mayas that are still in this area. And this is the area that I would be interested in working in to see how these changes into palm oil would be affecting. More specifically, here I'm in the southeast of Mexico, and I would be interested in working in the Grijalva-Usumacinta Watershed that flows from, the headwaters flow from Belize and Guatemala and eventually come out of the Gulf of Mexico. So one thing I didn't mention is that there hasn't been a lot of studies in how these changes in land use, in particular with palm, are affecting the ecosystem processes within streams. So that's why I'm interested in working in this specific area that has these resources and these different types of land uses. So in this area, instead of having a very pristine primary forest, what you would have is either a secondary forest or more of a pasture land that then becomes a palm oil plantation. So for the purpose of my dissertation, I would like to focus on how the different ecological processes vary in the different types of land use, and how these different land uses have been converted, like what are the reasons behind what is driving this change. So with a little bit more detail, I first of all propose to do a historical land use change analysis in this area of Southwest Mexico and see how it's changing from one land use to the other. I wish to do an ecological study in which I will determine what is the effect of the different land use types on different ecological processes, such as leaf decomposition and microbial respiration and even biotic composition. So how are these processes changing with land use type? And finally, I would like to compare and contrast the social-political landscape and conservation strategies that other areas of the world have used or are experiencing, kind of like in contrast to what is going on in this part of Mexico. So because of time, I just have 5 minutes. I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about the first part of my potential dissertation and hopefully get some feedback from you all. So I would like to use land use change modeling, and I wish to be able to integrate geographical information with natural and social data, and first of all to determine how it's expanded, like what areas are the ones that are being turned first, or which areas are the ones that are going to be more susceptible for change as time goes on. I would like to kind of determine what are the social-political reasons for these changes, like what has been driving these changes in land use. And then I would like to identify the different stakeholders that are involved and kind of see like who is more likely to be like affected negatively or who is like or positively in this whole situation. So I would like to take questions or comments if possible. You can go.
Okay. So I was just wondering, how are you thinking about differentiating like historical land use effects on the streams and the effects of
I need to do an analysis of seeing like what have been the different land use types through time, and because I will be measuring all these processes, like just kind of like a snapshot type thing in the different land use types, I guess I can extrapolate how they would be in previous uses or in future uses. That's what I would hopefully be able to do.
maybe like differences in fertilizers used or something like that?
Yeah, I need to determine what information I would be able to find. I don't know yet.
Yeah, do you know to what extent the expansion of oil palm in that area is driven by a plantation system as opposed to, like, say, smallholder, cultivation? Because there's some people who say, smallholder stuff avoids a lot of those problems.
Mm-hmm. I think it's mostly, Krista probably knows more than I do at this point.
Keysa has not been to Mexico yet, just to put that up here. So we're going in May, so a lot of these questions I just want to, I'll jump in. It depends on the region. So a lot of the banana people are converting to palm because palm is more, so we have this weird conversion from secondary forest to banana to big palm. And those are the acres and acres and acres you drive. It takes 20 minutes to get through a palm plantation. The indigenous people and the mestizo communities, ejido by ejido, so like municipal governments, are apparently making these decisions to convert or not convert. And so we'll be able to get in more, hopefully. I think I just have an in with some of the ejidos because none of them are Zapatista, which is harder to get in but great to work in. And so I think we'll be able to deal with both. We have two relationships with really big landowners, but they own like 5% of the state or something. So it's like these it's just huge tracts of land. So it's hard to get replication for those big sites. So it's going to be really potentially highly, highly interesting.
One thing that I realize you may not be there yet, but you might want to keep it in mind for the future, and especially since you brought up banana plantations converting is the demands of the oil palm as opposed to sort of plants that are growing their wild, and then also other crops that are cultivated. So,
Yeah, like water demand.
Water use requirements, soil requirements, things like that. Is it a choosy species, or will it grow wherever you plant it, like sunflowers, for instance?
Yeah.
I know you may not know that.
No, I actually hadn't considered that because I'm like, in terms of those processes, I'm focusing more on the streams. So like that in my mind right now wasn't part of the equation, but you're right. Like it's something that should be considered.
And then along the same lines is the role that the oil palm play may be in preventing erosion as opposed to some other species. So that'll play right into the stream thing.
Yeah.
You know, if they're
Yes.
growing oil palms alongside streams, how is that different from what might have been planted there before?
Yeah.